have your attention, please? At this time, we're going to begin the funeral memorial service here in our chapel for Mr. James Frederic Mayer. As we begin the service, I would ask if anybody may have a cell phone or any other noise-making device, please turn it off at this time. Officiating the service today is Rabbi Barry Schechter from Congregation Kol Emet here in Skokie. Thank you.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai, mi Yaakov Yalecha, Mishkon behar kodshecha, Olech tamim, Ufoil tzedek, V'dover emet bilvavo, Lo ragal leshono, Lo asal re'ehu ra'a, V'cherepa lo nasa, Al kerovo. Nivze ben avnimas, V'et yirei Adonai yachabed, Nishpa lehara, V'lo yamir, Kaspo lo natan beneshech, V'shochad onakil olakach. Oseile lo yimot li'olam. God, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain, those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who give their word and come what may do not detract, who do not exploit others, those who live in this way shall never be shaken. Dear friends, we're here for a sad and difficult occasion to say goodbye, which is one of the most difficult things that we can ever do, but also to pay tribute and to honor the memory, and even if possible, to celebrate the life of James Mayer, the son of Simon and Rena, who leaves behind a family and friends who loved him very dearly. First, I should mention his life's partner, Lila. They were married for 70 years. I will say that again in case you find it difficult to grasp. 70 years. Unbelievable. And the children, Marjorie, Dr. Marjorie Mayer, Margie, and Bob, and granddaughter, Rebecca. I should mention the late brother, Richard. And I also want to thank those who looked after her so wonderfully and with such dedication, Halina, Lydia, and is it Janina? Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah. Dziękuję ślicznie za wszystko. Thank you so much for everything that you did. And when you were growing up, when you children were growing up, you told me you lived in different places. He was born in the Chicago area, moved north. But then I think you lived, correct me if I'm wrong, in Minnesota, yes? Virginia. You lived in Holland, in Rotterdam. I think one of you actually spoke Dutch for a while, am I right? Did you as well? And then in New Jersey, because his work was in Manhattan. And when we spoke, Bob, you told me, and this was sort of tongue-in-cheek, you said, if he had a fault, it was that he worked too hard to support the family. That's like a Yiddish saying, Achesurum de kalas si shein. It's a defect. The bride is too beautiful. We should all have such defects. He worked as a commodity broker. His family, who had come from Germany early in the 20th century, were all involved in commodities, and he was in this and knew a great deal. He knew a great deal about it. And the job took him, as I say, to different places. He studied, he went to Cornell University, and in fact, you told me that he was hoping that I think you would go to Cornell as well, and you went there and he came to visit you specially. He flew in there just, I guess, to encourage you, because if I say he was never far from you, from the family, I'm understating it. He loved you. He loved you totally and completely. He supported you not just economically, financially, but he supported you in every possible way imaginable. When I asked how Lila and he met, Margie, you told me that he was in Ohio. He was working, I think, and he lived in a rooming house, and the owner of the rooming house knew some college girls, and this lady was one of them. And they were introduced. So the matchmaker, obviously a highly successful matchmaker, if you get two people together who stay together for 70 years, the matchmaker was this owner of the rooming house. We don't know how we're going to meet the one we love, if it'll work out. But when it does, it's something wonderful and something to be rejoiced and wondered at. Wonder in the sense that we don't know how this happens. In fact, you told me that, I said they were married for 70 years. It's more than 70 years because you had a wedding anniversary party in the summer, last summer, to celebrate this wonderful occasion. When you were growing up in New Jersey, you told me you had your bar mitzvah there in a synagogue, and you were confirmed then. Even Reform temples didn't allow women to have a bat mitzvah then. Just shows you how even the progressives can be reactionary. Rebecca, your bat mitzvah was at Temple Jeremiah here. You remembered when we spoke several driving trips when you were in New Jersey. You would drive to Pennsylvania to see Lila's mother, right, Sarah. And you would drive first to West Palm Beach and then Santa Barbara because Simon and Rena, your paternal grandparents, lived there. You told me you went to summer camps in Maine. You went to the expo in Montreal. So you have all these wonderful memories of being with both your parents, with him, of course. And you told me how, as a young man in college, he wrestled. He was a wrestler, and he played tennis. And he played tennis till he was 90 years old. It was unbelievable. He was someone who loved to travel. I think you told me he was on every single continent. In the mid-'80s, I think he was with you in Alaska. And Bob, I think you were in Antarctica. You crossed the straits in a boat. Wasn't the most comfortable trip, am I right? It was okay. You made it, though. You're here. Yes. You also traveled to Australia and the Far East and South America. They went to Europe as well, I hope. England? That makes me very happy. He loved traveling and adventure, and he did it into his mid-'80s. Bob, you told me how growing up, it was a fact that you were aware of, that you wanted for nothing, that everything was provided for, that education was stressed, how important it was to have an education, and you didn't have to worry about whether the finances would be there for it, whether you'd have to work or something like that. That was taken care of. Graduate school was taken care of. So there was the skill and the heart there. The heart to love the children, to support them, and the skill to earn a decent enough living so that you had no worries. But as you told me, you were not spoiled. You were not spoiled. You were loved and looked after. And you told me that also that, well, you used this phrase. You said he was a wonderful mensch, which is really untranslatable. He loved to read. He loved to read, especially biographies. He liked to go to the theater. In earlier years, the two of you would go to Steppenwolf. And then later, of course, he went to the North Shore Senior Center. Rebecca, you had a wonderful, wonderful relationship with him. When you came here, Marge, you came back here to do your medical studies. And so he and Lila came back here and were with you and with Rebecca and helping. And he was always there for you. He was like a father figure to you, wasn't he? Even if you were practicing gymnastics at the Wilmette Community Center, he was there. When you had meets, when you had soccer practice, he was there. He was always there for you. And you told me something else which was very significant, and it stayed with me, even without my notes. I was thinking about this. You said this to me: he taught me to be a decent person. And I said, well, how? And he said, to always be kind, to treat people kindly, to have respect for others. It's a lesson that should be more widely heard in the world that we're living in now. He told me a story. I'm not sure if I should tell it. The Grasshopper Story. Oh, you know about it? Well, then I can tell it to you. You said that when you were at, because both of you went to Washington U in University in St. Louis, and he was driving you there, of course. Naturally, he would drive. He would have driven all over the world to get you to your place. And he decided, now they're driving, imagine this, they're driving on a highway, and there are cornfields on either side. It's a highway with lots of trucks going very, very quickly. So he stops, and he wants to show you the difference, because they're cornfields, between corn that is fed to humans, to us, and corn that is fed to animals. So he schleps you out there, and you go traipsing through the corn. I was going to sing a song at that point. And then you get back into the car, and the truck's zipping along, and he starts speeding up and going. As he's driving, he starts squirming in his seat, and he's squirming and moving the wheel, so the car is sort of going like this. You're getting a little nervous. Then he stops the car, and he gets out, still squirming, and you should pardon the expression, he lowers, or takes off completely, his pants. What had happened was, on your journey into the cornfield, a grasshopper had taken an interest in him, or rather, either him or his pants. And the grasshopper had made friends with him. And so, at that day, all the truck drivers would have had the joy of seeing a man disrobe partially to rid himself of his new friend, the grasshopper. Anyway, that's the story. I think I have it right. You'll remember this and 1,000 other things. You told me, Bob, when we spoke, that he never raised his voice. That's what you told me. Never raised his voice. You also said, may I repeat this? you also said that if anyone deserved to have their voice raised to him, it was you. Because of course, even though you were wonderfully well behaved for the most part, there were occasions in which you could be difficult, just once or twice. But he didn't raise his voice. And this is interesting. It's interesting for all of us. I sometimes get upset and raise my voice, and I wonder how many times it has been counterproductive. It's had the opposite effect of what I want, because if he'd yelled at you, you would not have had anything to say. You would have said to me, I behaved badly, and he yelled at me, which is understandable, but it wouldn't have been anything remarkable. But the fact that he treated you gently is something that you remember, and you will remember for the rest of your life. And Rebecca, it chimes in with what you were saying about treating people kindly. He didn't just say it. He didn't just say it. He did it. He did it. There was a gentleness about him which made life wonderful for those people who lived with him. You told me also that when you came back to Chicago, there were cousins here, because his father was from a huge family. There were cousins here whom you had to meet again. In fact, in some cases, meet, I think, for the first time. Is that right? I think some of them are here today. We have some cousins here today, do we not? Yes? Yeah, yes. Now, one of the wonderful things about his life that you told me is about the end of his life, because he lived to the end of his life. I mean, he really lived. You told me, for example, that because of COVID, I didn't know about this. I wish I did know. I'll look this up now. There was a university lecture every single day on TV, right, at 3 p.m. on Zoom. On Zoom, not on TV, on Zoom. And he followed those lectures every single day, almost till the end. He still had this wonderful curiosity, this desire to learn, this desire to have knowledge, to rejoice in knowledge, I would say. He had that till the end. We have that in one of our prayers. There's this phrase, Kol Zaman, which means as long as, Sheha Neshama. Neshama can mean soul, but it can also mean breath. As long as there is breath in me. Now, for some people, if we're very sick or we're disabled or something, we can't. But he had the enthusiasm, the will to live. I don't mean to live on, but to live the life every day. He had this going on till the end, which is wonderful. There's a wonderful spirit there. You, the children, and his granddaughter gave him great joy, great nachas. He was very proud of you, of all of you. He was very grateful to have had such a wonderful partner as Lila. And I think what I was saying before, I said that if you think of his qualities and how they're needed in the world we live in, the greatest praise we can give to anyone, and I give it to him because it's absolutely deserved, is that if more people were like him, the world would be a better place. And there is absolutely no question whatsoever that is true of this man. You were blessed to have him. And in a sense, you have him still. You don't have him physically. You do not have him physically, I know. And you've had a terrible loss. Even at this wonderful advanced age, a loss is a loss. But what you saw in him and what you received from him and your relationship with him, in a sense, does not end now. You can't hear his voice now, except in your memory. But all these qualities that he had, they are the inheritance that he leaves to you. This is yours now. It's a lesson. You know, a father is a teacher, or should be a teacher, and he was a teacher par excellence, by example, by instruction as well, but by example. In one of our prayers that we say, if our parents are present, we mention them. If we talk about our father, Av is a father in Hebrew. Avi means my father. But we do not just say Avi. We say Avi Mori, my father, my teacher. That's what we say. And he was. Not every father is, but he was. So take whatever you can from his life. There'll be moments in the future when things are difficult, or you might have a moral dilemma, you might not be sure. You'll think of him, and you'll do the right thing. It won't always happen, but it will happen sometimes. At such a moment, if you have a dilemma, should I do this, should I do that? What would he do? What would he do? I'm going to do that. At such a moment, in a very important sense, he lives on. He lives on. You know, when a good person comes into the world, the good they bring into the world does not have to depart when they leave us physically. So, I say of him, Tehei nishmato tzurura b'tzro hachayim. May his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. And to him I say, James, Lech b'shalom. Go in freedom, go in peace. Habalech in Gan Eden. May your repose be in paradise. You will never be forgotten. You'll always be remembered in love by those who knew you and loved you, and those whom you knew and you loved. Amen. And now we're going to recite the 23rd Psalm. If you open these pamphlets on the left side at the top, would you join me in reading, please, together? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Yeah, with me. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. If I could ask you to stand, please. If it's difficult to stand, do not stand. Just if you can, get up. Stand, please. And now I'm going to ask if you could do this, if you could just do a little tear in your ribbons and do it for your mum as well. Or you could do it for each other. Just a little tear from the bottom, the middle of the bottom, just like that. And I'm going to say, to actually come together and do the ribbons. So they are. Come on. You better remember, just stand with each other. Here. So, I'm going to say the blessing with you that we say on these occasions, and anyone else who wishes to join can. It begins the usual way, Baruch Atah, etc., and then the two words at the end, which I'll tell you. So, let's do it. Baruch Atah Elo Dayan Ho'emes. That means blessed be the true judge. That's what we say. That's what we say when we suffer a loss. You go back to your seats, but please remain standing. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Bamramim Amlitzei Menochane Chona Tachat Kanefei HaShechina B'mahalot Kedoshim Otorim Kizarak Yamasirim Et Nishmat James Ben Simon Verena Shalach Liolamo Bavor Shanach nadrim nitzdaka biad haskarat nishmata. Began Eden tehei menuchato lachein volarachamim yastirehu v'seite kanafav leolamim v'yetzeror b'yitzrarachem et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanuach b'shalom Alim yishkavo v'nomar Amen. Passionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of James Mayer, the son of Simon and Rena, who has entered eternity and in whose memory we offer charity. May his repose be in paradise. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. And we will conclude the service now with the Mourner's Kaddish, which is on the back page. You have it in Hebrew letters, and you have it in English letters as well. I will say it with you. Anyone can join. It's for the mourners primarily, but anyone can join. If you don't join, you could respond. One of the responses is very, very simple. Some of you know it, I know. When we say V'imru, you say Amen. We say V'imru, you say Amen. So we'll begin. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'alma divrach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayichon v'yamechon, v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala uvizman kariv, v'imru, everyone, Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah, mevarach le'alam, u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal, shemei dekutsha rihu, le'ela min kol, birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran v'alma, v'imru, everyone, Amen. Yehei shalama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. That last verse speaks of shalom. You all know what shalom means. Shalom means peace. It says, Oseh shalom bimromav. He who makes shalom above, he who makes peace above. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu. May he make shalom, may he make peace here below, among us, between us, and I also like to think within us, because when we suffer a loss, as you have done, we do not have peace, we do not have tranquility inside us, we have a turmoil. Something is wrong. The world is upside down. It's no good. So I hope and pray that you'll find some measure of peace as time goes on. The scars remain, but it will not weigh as heavily.
This concludes the memorial service here in our chapel. The interment will be private. The family will be sitting Shiva at the Mayer residence this evening from 6:30 p.m. until 8 p.m. The family requests only individuals that are vaccinated attend the Shiva in person. Also, the family has asked that memorial contributions be made to Culver Academics or through the JUF for the planting of a tree in Israel. Those that are here, that information's on the inside portion of the funeral service folder you have. If you don't have them, they're available. Those of you watching online, that information's available on the website you are currently on. This concludes the service here at our chapel. Thank you.